Hey, this is Jeff Phillips with Accounting Fly. Hope you're doing great today. We're going to have a conversation about the future of remote accounting work. This is a topic that we are asked about almost every day. Where are the remote accounting opportunities? How do I know if a remote opportunity is for me? What is the future landscape of remote work going to look like? And how do I build a remote firm? So we're gonna tackle all of those questions in our conversation with Bruce Phillips, who is the managing partner of HPC, a completely virtual firm that hires remote virtual accountants across the country, has remote and virtual clients around the country. So let's dive into this. Bruce, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Um, so Bruce, we're gonna take a deep look at remote accounting work. This is something you have built an expertise on in building your organization. So let's just get started. But before we get into remote, can you just tell us your career background, how you got to your place that you're at today?
Sure. Been a CPA over 30 years. I started Harshman Phillips and Company, which was a traditional firm in 1992. We rebranded last year to HPC. Um, Before that, I was with E&Y in the audit department and was a manager when I left. Um, the uh, the HPC kind of evolved over time. I guess I made a pivot from a traditional firm to a cloud-based firm starting about 5 years ago. We were pretty early on, and we started doing back office stuff. We started doing hosted kind of accounting, and slowly but surely kind of got out of the traditional stuff and got into the anything we could do through the cloud, and that was kind of what was a predicated kind of where we are today. We were pretty early on though, so
Now you started HPC in '92. It was a traditional firm. Can you just go deeper into the story of how you decided to make it remote, how that happened,
sure.
and just give us the lay of the land?
It started out not so much being remote. It started out actually wanting recurring revenue. I saw all of our clients, making money doing the monthly stuff, and I was like, wait a second, I have to fight every year. I get some recurring taxes annually, but everything else was, I've got to fight for the revenue every year. So I wanted recurring revenue. That's what led me to the back office stuff. That's what led me to the cloud. And then in 2011, I met Rod Drury from Zero on one of his first trips over here, and he was telling me what he was doing, and I was just fascinated. I went back to Atlanta. I met him in Vegas. I went back to Atlanta the next day and set my company up on Zero. And that's what kind of started the whole Zero thing with us. Within 6 months, we were one of their largest partners in the country. And then slowly but surely, because of Zero, we actually had employee opportunities or employment opportunities with people that were not in Atlanta, which is where I was. And because we could hire them, I did hire them. And that was kind of what started it. And then we had one, then we had two, then we had three, and they were all remote. And I would bring them to Atlanta for like a week of training when they came in to meet them and kind of do some of the traditional stuff. But actually, over time, everyone became remote. So last year, during busy season from January through April, I think we had 5 people in the Atlanta office with me. Um, One moved to Maryland, another one moved to California, another one kind of took another job. And before you know it, I was the only one in Atlanta. I realized I had a completely virtual company. Then I put my office building up for sale everywhere. For people that know me, I've kind of been traveling around for a year. I spent 3 weeks in New Zealand this year with basically meeting with people and Zero people and Zero add-on partners and our clients. I spent almost a month in Europe and basically rented a place up in Maine in the summertime and worked from Maine last summer. I traveled to San Francisco and LA and New York where we have kind of pockets of clients and people. But pretty much I'm everywhere for right now.
So I imagine a lot of people just heard that and said that sounds really cool. What about your
Or they
team?
don't believe it. Most people don't believe it, but I've done it.
So that's you. Your team is now virtual. Do you how many do you have on your team now? And can you give
Sure.
me like where are they?
Sure. The head count right now is 27. We've gone from, I want to say, 7 to 27 in about, I can't remember if it's 2 years or 3 years. And they're in, I believe the latest count is 10 states, maybe 11. I think we got four in California. We seem to have a New England bias, either people in New England or from New England, which is kind of neat because I grew up in Rhode Island, and I'm in New England right now. But lots of Boston fans, and that's been kind of neat. The clients are all over. When I counted a couple years ago, we had clients in 28 states, and actually now I can actually boast that we have clients on 6 continents. So we actually have a client in Africa doing something pretty neat, and then of course Europe, Australia, Asia, South America, and Brazil. So pretty much our clients are all over, our people are all over, and the way we do it is by awesome communication and using different tools. We're really I don't know if I'm tool snobs, but in terms of figuring out how we're going to communicate, how we're going to do things, how we're going to share information is key to us to be able to do it. So we have a great book, though I'm sure you can ask some more questions.
Well, I wanted to ask about the tools in a second. Does your team members have the flexibility, if they're remote, do they have the same flexibility to travel the way it seems you do?
Yeah, and they do. So I love to tell the story that I believe in the last year we've had 3 people move because they could. And I'd love to say they were able to move them and their family without having to worry about losing their job. That's pretty cool. Um, One moved from Northern California to Southern California. One moved from Georgia to Maryland. Another one from Georgia to Santa Barbara. Another one's moving from Boston to who knows where. So yes, they can do that. On the traveling front, one of our employees recently spent a month in Japan, and so he was able, through all the use of the tools, to basically stay in touch. We actually have an interesting. We just put in. I don't want to say it incorrectly, but I guess it's called a DTO, a discretionary time off policy, where basically you can take as much time as you want as long as your work gets done, kind of thing. So basically, they're the whole, to me anyways, the whole life work balance thing is together. My life is my work, and my work is my life, and so there's really not a separation. So he was able to go to Japan with his family for a month, and he was a pretty important cog in our um, onboarding process of new clients, and we add a lot of new clients every month. And but he I didn't even have to ask him. He said, "You know what? I'm going to take that pace, and every morning when I get up, I'm going to do my 30 minutes of what I need to do to keep the cogs moving." And then I, talked to the rest of the team, and the other team filled in for me on all the other things that I do that weren't as urgent, and everything was great. It was awesome. That's a great example, actually.
It is a great example, and it is. I think it's eye opening. And so, what with all of that flexibility comes new challenges, I'm sure. And
Oh yes.
so, I want to talk about that with from your perspective. Like, how do you how do you build a culture? How do you keep in touch with employees, and how does your team communicate with each other? So, you mentioned these tools. Can you just
Sure.
talk about the tools that you
Sure.
guys use?
So before we talk about the tools, I'll have to say sometimes I have to keep reminding people that the flexibility that they have is a two-way street. It's not one way where HPC gives and you take. To do this, it's a two-way street. So you might have to do some things when you're away, and but you're ultimately responsible for making sure that your work gets done and gets done timely and gets done efficiently and effectively. So um, and the key there is to kind of build the culture, as you said, and hire superstars. I love talking about our team as everyone's a superstar, and the other thing that we tell people when they start is that, and I know it's full of cliches, but I say there's really no place to hide in HPC. If you're not doing your job, I don't even have to get involved. The team's going to pretty much know it, and you're not going to make it, which is pretty good. I like it that way, and because of that, you step up or you step out. And not everybody we've brought in has made it. I mean, unfortunately, we've had some really nice people, and they either they can't function. This is kind of part of the challenges we're going to talk about, but they just can't function in this environment. It's not for everybody, right? But for the people that can function in it and like it, man, it's awesome. So going to the tools, it all starts with transparency. So everything we do is transparent as a firm. So our project management software, where I can pull up at any point in time the status of anybody's kind of client list and the status of all their monthly projects. All the notes from the clients are in there. I can see if we're over or under budget because we do. One of the things we talked about the other day is tracking time. They do track time not for billing purposes but for project management purposes. So we can see if there's an issue. We can see if we priced the job right because we do fixed pricing and value pricing. We can also see if maybe in some cases we've had where, I preach so hard that I want the, the client experiences everything. Every touch to the client is really important. And sometimes the employees, as we've grown, will do things that are not in the scope. And people will take whatever you'll give them, and they'll ask for things, and the employees will just do them, and they're out of scope. Well, that's another way we can tell just by looking. If you can see one client continually is over every month, it's like, well, either they're not giving us what we need, or we're doing stuff that's not part of the scope. So the project management software is key, and then the other piece is the communication. So we started off on Office 365 using Microsoft Link. Everyone's pretty much video chatting or video and chatting and talking all day. We recently migrated, thanks to Blake, and we have actually a technology person to move over to Google, which was a tough decision for me as a CPA to move off of Microsoft to Google. But it works so seamlessly with many of the other tools that we use that we had to do it, and I'm glad we did it, and I don't even go into Microsoft anymore.
So now you're talking about you're using Gmail, Google Apps, Google Drive, etc.
Yep. And we still got a couple things that we're migrating on that, but basically everything talks to each other. We also use HubSpot as our CRM and for the marketing and the sales, and everything kind of goes through there. But and recently, because we've grown so big, we love to do we started off doing, I know I'm kind of rambling, but we started off doing a weekly video call when we had 5 people. Every once a week, we all get on the video, which is kind of the way we built culture, and the way I kind of let everybody know the way I wanted things done. And I guess kind of lead them. And then slowly but surely we've grown so much that we couldn't get everybody on the video anymore. And one of our clients was using a tool, and they do it with their Australian team in the US called Zoom. So we started using Zoom. And actually, I believe you can have 25 people now on a video call, which we have now outgrown also. But that's actually pretty cool where you can see the whole company. And we're still a small company. We can't afford tens of thousands of dollars for a subscription to something like that, like a big company can. We can't afford to build our own. So, but the communication is cool. So the video calls, the chat, and then we also put in Slack last May, which, I love to move forward and I love technology, but a lot of times I'll push back because I don't think I have time to learn a new tool. But I was in New Zealand when we put in Slack, and it's the way I started using it and communicating with everybody. So I was kind of on board at the first week, and now we've got everybody on Slack, and we have protocols about how to communicate using what. Because, in all honesty, when you use so many tools, you can't remember what you saw where. So our internal communications go through Slack. Our external communications still go through email and end up in our project management. Ultimately, it would be nice to have that all in one place.
Bruce, with a remote team, process must be critical, I can imagine. Can you just talk about how you've implemented processes with a remote?
Sure. So I break down the processes into the smallest component that I can. So when I look at things, I look at from lead process, which is kind of marketing, getting the lead, to the sales process, which is scoping and getting up with a fee and getting them, to the point that you've got the sale, to the engagement process, which is taking the sale and getting a service agreement or an engagement letter out to the client and getting them signed up. Then, from that point, it's onboarding, which is all the things that have to happen during onboarding. Then is what we call implementation, which is setting up the Zero and all the add-ons and everything and getting it all work together and kind of being a cloud integrator, and in many cases converting from another software. Then goes into what we call maintenance, which is basically doing the bookkeeping, doing the back office, doing the advising. And then as a supplement to that, we also have all the tax planning and tax compliance that goes with that. So it kind of goes throughout the thing. So what happens is we use HubSpot CRM, which basically about, I think, 8 people have access to. They can see the status of all the deals with all the notes with what's going on. Once the lead turns into a sales, we have a client success team that actually gets the service agreement prepared, and we use a tool called PandaDoc, which basically we'll send it to the client. It's kind of really neat. You can embed all kinds of stuff in there and pictures and videos, and then basically they sign it electronically. Once the PandaDoc is signed, automatically notifications go to 3 people. One goes to set up the project in our project management software. So basically it goes and it sets up all the tasks that need to be done with the timing and what has to do based on the service agreement. One goes to billing to set up the recurring invoices. One goes to payment to run all the ACHs because we get paid in advance. And of course, one goes to Shelly, our ops person, to basically assign it and make sure that everything goes to the right place. Not that the billing and payment is all automatic, but the assigning it to which person on the implementation team is going to get this based on capacity. So all that happens automatically.
I imagine that it took a lot of time to work all of this out.
Yeah, we've changed we change it every month because we improve it because we figure out there's a hole or something breaks and it's like, oh, what happened? We need to fix that. And actually, when we grew, the last growth spurt we actually had to break all the processes to fix them. And I'm not saying we're perfect, but I mean, because we keep changing things. But, and I always, I tell people who will listen, running and process at a 5 or 7 person firm is very different than a 12 to 15 person firm or team. And then running a 25 to 30 person team is very different than running a 12 to 15 person team. And I'm sure it's going to be different again at 40 to 50.
Yeah, I've heard this great quote: "What got you here will not get you there. You've got to disrupt and you got to break the system to get better."
Yeah. Now, I think we got good enough processes and I think we have the right tools, although I already have on our radar kind of the next tools. But what I'm hoping is that with the tools we put in place will take us all the way we want to go. The management team we have in place will put us all the way we want to go. All we need to do is make the sale and hire the staff, which is where you come in. So,
So the biggest pro from your perspective running a firm that is virtual, I have to imagine it's the flexibility it offers you and your staff. Would you agree with that?
yeah, it is definitely the flexibility, but it's also, I like to say that the talent pool isn't limited by geography. So when a one of the first people we hired, well, the first person we hired virtually moved here from New Zealand, and she had worked for a Zero firm in New Zealand. Already knew Zero was already awesome in what we were doing, and she was trying to get on with Zero in the U.S. and they didn't have a place for her. And the then president reached out to me and said, "Do you have any interest in talking to her?" I Skyped with her from New Zealand and hired her on the spot, and she was moving to Wisconsin, and I was like, "I don't care. No, I want you." And so that's a perfect example. Same thing with my ops person now who is in Jacksonville, Florida. She's the best in the business, and she was available, and it worked out, and we had the same goals and everything, and doesn't matter where you are. So that's probably the most. The flexibility is great, but sometimes we do have to remind that flexibility does not replace working hard. I mean, we work hard. Doesn't mean you have to work hard, and you just maybe can work kind of where you want, when you want, but you still got to get the work done.
Yeah. Well, we know that accountants are craving that flexibility. We did a survey of young CPAs recently, and work-life balance was this overwhelming response of, when we asked what they were thinking about in their next job opportunity. So I want to talk about accountants and
Hmm.
maybe those who are interested in remote work. How would what advice would you give an accountant who was thinking about if a remote opportunity and if it was right for them?
Sure. So one of the things, and we've changed the way we interview and talk to people. So maybe this is a good time to talk about this. One of the most important thing in I'm going to name one and two. The most important thing to come into HPC is, are you going to fit into the culture, and is everyone going to be able to work together? So we actually have almost all of our new hires talk to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 team members to make sure to get everybody's opinion. Is this person going to fit and work the way we work or not? And by doing that, they also, my employees are my best recruiters. They're gung ho and they love what they do and they're very happy where they are, hopefully. And they actually do that. So are they going to fit? That's number one. The second thing is they're also trying to figure out, are they going to be able to function with the technology? So those are the two things. You can teach the skills and the experience, but if they have those two things, it pretty much means that they're going to be a pretty good fit. And then skills are kind of last. Does that make sense? So so you have to be self motivated. You're not going to have someone babysitting you, making sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing every day. You need to be getting your work done and doing what you're doing. And there's tons of resources and help for you out there, using the tools and on the phone and email and Slack and video. But you have to be self motivated. One of the other things we found is that you really got to have your own workspace. We've had a few people who, in all honesty, interviewed and couldn't really do the video call at the beginning. That was a pretty good sign they were going to have a hard time with the technology. We had some people who were going to work off their kitchen table with their spouse and kids running around. That's not going to work for us. You need to have a workspace. These are things we've learned over time.
I was going to ask you, for the sake of the people watching the video, like when somebody was hired remotely and it didn't work out, and I imagine you might have said they didn't have a workspace or they weren't self motivated. Was there any other answers in that line of why did people not work out in a virtual setting with you?
Yeah, I think it's just that they couldn't be on their own. They weren't they just didn't they couldn't function that way. They weren't productive. And again, it was obvious to everybody, not including themselves.
I would think you once told me that a virtual a great hire would have to have great communication skills, but it would be a different type of communication, right?
Yep. Yeah, you can't wait for people to call and talk to you. You've got to be, I don't want to say outgoing, but because we've got some shy people in there too, but they still are good communicators.
Yeah, yeah. I think assertive. You've got to be
Yeah.
assertive, whether that would be on a chat, phone, video,
Yeah.
whatever.
And I encourage new people. We hired actually two new people start this week. And, say, I encourage you to participate in the Slack conversations and, get yourself out there and people will reach out to you and people will embrace you. But, don't be a hermit because it's easy to hide behind and be a hermit, you know?
But that won't work you'll disappear in a remote environment. I've got a sense of your culture from this conversation, and it will definitely not work at HPC.
Mm-mm, yeah. But it's interesting. I haven't really thought about the personality side. So, but because we all took personality tests too, and it was kind of interesting when we did that. But but uh, but yeah, no, I think it's about being a good communicator, wanting to learn new things, and wanting to take care of clients, and wanting to be part of a team and a culture. I saw recently that the team kind of put out and they just had an ugly Christmas sweater contest on Slack, which was hilarious. And people are posting their pictures of their children and families and neat things that they do all the time. So we all get to share, even though we're not together. That's culture, right? Isn't that what it is?
Culture makes people happy at where they work, and I think the flexibility is a big part of your culture, but the socialization is important too, and that's happening, and that can happen remote. Our company is half remote, and there's employees that we have that we've only seen twice, and yet we know each other very well because of the things that we've decided to do internally.
We tried a virtual happy hour actually, which was pretty cool. Okay, whatever floats your boat, right?
So you're drinking beer or whatever.
Wine, beer, tequila, at different times. Now the West Coast people kind of got it easy because they had an early one, but
Oh yeah, they were doing a 1 o'clock happy hour.
yeah, that was funny. But
Is Okay. So another question about HPC: Are you hiring, and what are you hiring for? And give us some ideas about what you're looking for.
sure. So yes, our plan is to hire. We've built this team, we've built this culture, and now we've actually built a reputation, I think, in the business of what we're doing. Um, and so we're adding clients every month. We're growing. Our plan is to hire somewhere between 6 and 10 people in the next, I'd say, 12 months. Um, those people will be in different departments because as we've grown, we've had to get departmentalized. That was one of the things we did this year. Um, so we potentially be looking for somebody on the sales side to do what we call client success, dealing with the scoping and getting agreements out and doing that kind of stuff as we're growing because that's a growing department. Um, the next department that we have is what we call implementation, which is basically being a cloud integrator. So it's knowing all the cloud tools, so like Zero and all of our favorite tools, like everything from Expensify, Receipt Bank, Spotlight, Gusto, Zenefits, Bill.com, you name it. And all the inventory ones, and then of course all the e-commerce and retail ones that we use, and project management. But putting them all together, getting everybody set up, figuring out their workflow. We need people like that. Um, uh, and then of course some financial reporting that goes with that. And then we have kind of junior accountants and senior accountants that do some of the bookkeeping and reconciliation and financial reporting and transaction processing. Um, and then we're also always looking for virtual CFOs, people who have industry experience in SaaS companies, technology companies, retail, e-commerce, where we basically kind of spread where you can get a pretty high level person, but they're shared over many clients. And then last but not least is tax. We have, well, I'm sure we're going to be hiring tax people this year too, more tax people. We just hired one. So, um, and then last but not least, I guess we can kind of have our firm management administration, which is everything from payroll, HR, benefits, billing, AP, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of the whole gamut. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Um, I so just so Bruce just mentioned a lot of jobs, but Bruce, just so you know, we'll put links to these jobs on the profile. We'll put this on our blog. We'll make sure people can get to your Accounting Fly profile
Yep.
or to your website where they can learn about all these opportunities.
Yeah, and I think the first ones, and I did kind of go all over the place. The first ones are going to be additional accountants, probably junior accountants to start. We know we're going to need one in about 30 days, so we're already starting to kind of, you sent over some resumes. We're already starting to kind of look, but we definitely will be we hiring some people this year.
Awesome. I'd like to, come back to this subject again, Bruce, because I think employers and firms are interested in building remote and hiring remote. I'm of the opinion that the remote workforce, the demand for remote work is going to grow probably exponentially over the next 20 years. You're on the front of this wave, but I think it's coming, and I think it's an interesting topic to be talking about. So we'll close there, but Bruce, thank you. Thanks for giving us the whole explanation of how you got to this point. This is fascinating stuff. We're going to link to your website so people can connect with you. You're on Twitter, I take it, and
yep, we're at HPC CPA.
All right,
and I think it's Bruce_HPC.
Good.
And it's hpccpa.com. Pretty easy for the website. So yeah.
We'll put the links to all of that so people who are watching connect with Bruce, connect with HPC, learn about the employment opportunities. So we'll close for now. Bruce, thanks for giving us your time this morning.
Nope. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. Always good to see you.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.